Hi, I just have a word from God to share with you guys. Um, a lot of us, we have received a promise. We have received a dream from God, showing us um, what our futures should look like, what calling God has given us. Um, and there's a lot of us that a long time has passed, and we still don't see it. So we start to get discouraged, and we start to wonder and ask God, why? Why am I not seeing what you promised? And so I've been studying on that. God has been really working with me on that. Um, I was speaking to my brother not too long ago. Now, for a long time, he went to college. He was going to school to work in the hospital and stuff like that. And he really worked hard. And once he graduated, he was excited. He wanted to get a really good job at the hospital and stuff like that. Well, when it came down to it, he struggled very hard. He couldn't get a job there. And, he got upset. And he was so desperate to get a job that he ended up getting a regular paying job at a restaurant, being a waiter. And he began to question himself. He began to question God. God, why are these doors not opening? You helped me get this far. Why are these things happening? And we prayed for him. We just didn't know what was going on. And so a long time passed. I want to say a good 6-7 months. And finally he gets the call, and he goes to this job that he's always wanted. So now he's working there, but yet he's still having this job on the side, because he wants to pay off his school loans and all that good stuff. So he begins to share with us and speak to us about this girl that he met at the job, at the restaurant. Now she's an atheist, and he's been ministering to her, and now she has opened herself up, and she wants to go to church now. So now my brother is able to be used by God. There was no accident of him working at that job, and I was hearing him speak, and God was speaking to me, and he was saying, none of these things which happen are a mistake. And he says he made a pit stop. Now, he did not waste any time. God did not waste any time. Yes, he gave you the dream. Yes, he gave you the desire to seek out that career. And even though, things happened that you didn't plan, you didn't really understand, but God is saying that he does not waste anything. This girl that he met at this job, they're really good friends now. God is saying, I love these people so much, that I'm willing to send you. I'm willing to send you to speak to them, because you are mine and I trust you with them, so it's a big honor. And just wanted to open your guys' minds when it comes to where you're at right now. If you're not seeing things that look anything like what God has promised you, don't be discouraged. Don't be letting the enemy speak to your ear saying, oh, well, it's never going to happen, God's not really going to do that for you, or anything like that. What we don't understand is that um, before you get to that desired destination, you will go through some pit stops. And there's nothing against you. It's just that God is wanting to use you. And so sometimes we we get upset or whatever like that, but in the end we want to know that we're in God's will. God's will is more important to us than our own. So I think that is most important. And also we got to understand that is the most rewarding. Even if you got what you wanted, it's not nearly as rewarding as the process that God is going to bring you to. The people that you're going to meet, the experiences, the testimonies that you're going to be able to tell. You wouldn't be able to do any of that if it wasn't for those pit stops. Now, I was reading Joseph. I know when I was thinking of these things, God was saying, Joseph. Remember, Joseph was put into the pit. His brothers, after hearing his dream, God gave him a dream that he was going to be something great. And he decided to share that. And that was a big no-no. So his brothers thought that they could come against his dream. They're thinking, well, if we kill him, then his dream won't come true. Well, they decided to throw him in the pit, and they were planning on killing him, and if you put yourself in his shoes, you listening to people contemplating on killing you, and you're in this hole, you could understand how frightening that could be, And so I was reading on Joseph, and I was wondering, I was like, wow. I was like, well, God gave him this big, big, big dream that he was going to be something great. But then he was thrown into the pit, and then these people came around, the Ishmaelites, and they decided to just sell him to them for 20 shekels. Now 20 represents redemption, so God was saying, he redeemed him from that pit that he was in. And so from there you see that he went to the palace, where the captain of the guard was there, and he was tempted, and he he fought it. He did what was right, but still he was wrongly accused, and he was thrown into another pit, which was the dungeon. It was prison. And that's another discouraging thing for him that he has to go through. He has to be in there. Now some time went by, and the Pharaoh's baker and the butler were sent to prison. Now because of that, Joseph was able to reach out to the butler, which is the only one that survived that. He came out alive, and he told him, make sure that you mention me to Pharaoh so that I can get out of here. Which, once he got out, he forgot. And it says that 2 years went by. 2 years that this man forgot about Joseph. Now you understand that being in that situation, being in that environment for that long, how discouraging that could have been. What went through Joseph's mind, thinking, okay, God, you call me to something great, but why am I in here? And then you give me an opportunity, and I get my hopes up, thinking because I told the baker, the Pharaoh's baker, that he's automatically going to help me get out. And now 2 years have gone by, and he forgot me. Just putting yourself in his shoes, just knowing, the hardships that he went through. Even though he was given the vision, he was given the promise of God that he was going to be great. He was going to be somebody great. So I believe God wanted him to give him that time to grow, that time of growing his faith. And also to know, where your heart is, that you're gonna be faithful to God, no matter what. And so when the time came, God gave the dream to Pharaoh. And then the baker was remembering what had happened with himself. And he mentioned to Pharaoh about Joseph. Now Joseph was allowed to come out and present himself. And because of that, God allowed him to become who he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be that great leader that Pharaoh put over all of Egypt. And the whole purpose of this was to save God's people, Israel. So the whole point of this is, if you're going through a pit, if you're going through hard times, don't give up. God's promises are for just to stand on. God is not a liar. No matter how it looks, no matter what your circumstances look like, God will get you to where you're supposed to be, no matter what. I was reading on Job 33 and the verse 22 to 30. It says right here, yes, his soul draws near the pit. Now this is speaking about the people that you're supposed to reach out to. Yes, his soul reaches near the pit, and his life to his executioners. If there is a messenger for him, a mediator, one among 1,000, to show man his uprightness, then he is gracious to him and says, deliver him from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. His flesh shall be young like a child. He shall return to the days of his youth. He shall pray to God, and he will delight in him. He shall see his face with joy, and he restores to man his righteousness. Then he looks at men and says, I have sinned and perverted what was right, and it did not profit me. He will redeem his soul from going down to the pit, and his life shall see the light. Life shall see the light. Behold, God works all these things twice, in fact 3 times with a man, to bring back his soul from the pit, that he may be enlightened with the light of life. So all of these things happen a lot of the times. You're put in situations not because of something you did wrong, but because God loves his people so much that he's willing to send one of his own to reach down into that pit and grab those people, to reach those people, and he entrusts you with these people. And sometimes God wants to make sure that we ourselves are not selfish. We see the big picture at the end, but we don't care about the process. We don't care about the growth. And if we really want to say that we love people, we want to be there for people, not just ourselves. And God, I think, makes sure of that. He allows us to see certain situations. He allows us to meet certain people that just, touch our hearts, and we can understand God's heart in a new level with much more understanding and say, okay, God, I know now why you brought me here. You love this person so much, and you sent me, and that's a really big honor. That's a big deal. And so, and another thing that I think Joseph and us are sent to these things, these situations, is because also it builds our characters. With Joseph, being through all that he went through. God knows what happened while he was there. God really tested him, with his humbleness, with his him still keeping himself firm in God. He wanted to build that character because of the position he was going to be put in. Now he was going to be over the food. He was going to be over the people of Israel. God did not want him to have this big head. So I believe, that was the real purpose, most, some of it. And, God worked in such a way with Joseph to where, when his brothers came, that any other person, that their brothers would have done that to them, they would have sent them packing. They would have said, too bad, go back home, send my dad if you want, but you guys, I'm not going to feed. You guys can die, But God knew that Joseph's heart was not like that, that, he had the character, he had the heart for the position that he was about to bestow. And so that's the message that I wanted to share, and I hope it blesses you.